start. Thank you again, everybody, for being with us this evening, this Thursday evening for our Fireside Chat, relationship with risky play, which is a topic near and dear to my heart as someone who's been working with CNAC for a while now and also as a parent. Would love to thank you all at the top of this call for joining us and for giving us your time to contribute your thoughts and to help inform our work today. Thank you so much for being with us. My co-host Kay will be helping facilitate and helping me and the team this evening. So thank you as well, Kay, for giving up your Thursday evening to help us out. Kay is amazing in this work and has so much to contribute. So we feel really privileged that you're with us today, Kay. Thank you. Thank you also to the CNAC team for giving up your Thursday evenings to assist in various ways. It's so great of you all, and none of this work could happen without you. So really grateful for that. A couple of housekeeping things as before we get into the questions and the meat of today. So today's event will be recorded so that we can share it with folks who could not attend this evening, so we can make this accessible to as many people as possible. We will share the recording to the registration list via email as well as on our YouTube channel. We'll also share links in the chat to those pieces as we go and at the end of the call. The breakout rooms, however, will not be recorded, but our facilitation folks within those groups will be taking notes so they can report back to the wider group once the breakout sessions have finished. Please feel free to use your preferred language in the chat box, and if you have any questions about the format of today or the content or anything at all, feel free to use that chat function that's being monitored throughout the call. An introduction from me. So my name is Heather Wilson. I'm the Executive Director with the Child and Nature Alliance of Canada and part of the core team there. I speak to you today from the unceded and unsurrendered territory of the Algonquin and Anishinaabe, from downtown Ottawa, where my son plays, where we all play and where my son roams. I'm a white settler, cisgendered queer woman with a passion for outdoor play and nature. I'm also passionate about social justice and anti-oppression. I am one part of a three-part family nucleus, and we are a British, Jamaican, Canadian hybrid. So we have lots of really great food and traditions as a family. When I'm not with CNAC, I am a birth doula, I'm a dancer, I am a mother, and I am a farmer. So that's a little bit about me. Part of our work with CNAC is to work toward reconciliation with our Indigenous communities that we work with and to do better in that work. CNAC itself is headquartered on the unceded territory of the Algonquin and Anishinaabe in Ottawa, Ontario. Our organisation is currently led by white settlers, and we have imposed a settler colonial way of being with the land because our programs were not co-created with Indigenous people. We are committed to repairing our relationship with Indigenous communities by dismantling harmful practices, changing the way we operate, and co-creating programs. My own personal land acknowledgement is that I acknowledge that this land is Indigenous land, and that I acknowledge this land is also my touchstone and guide. I am grateful to the land for always guiding and supporting me, always sharing its lessons and providing comfort and sustenance for myself and my family. So I am really pleased this evening to introduce you to my co-host, Kay, and I'll open up the call to you, Kay, to also introduce yourself.
Miigwech, Heather. Bonjour, Ani. Hello, everyone. Wapshke benesik inago tikdodam. Wabanaki aristagush onjaba. Wajishkanigam treaty 3 onjaba. My English married name is Kay Rasmussen, and I currently live in Wajishkanigam, now known colonially as Kenora, what used to be Rat Portage. And I'm a mixed race woman of Mi'kmaq, Acadian, and European heritage. And I have been working with CNAC for the last 4 years and see lots of familiar faces. So it's nice to see everyone. Always love to acknowledge that land under our feet. Everywhere we walk, it is with us. And I just want to introduce a little bit about the community consultation project, which is what tonight's event is all about. So tonight's event is part of a 3-year community consultation project that CNAC is undertaking with support from the Lawson Foundation. Our goal is to meet Forest and Nature School or meet with Forest and Nature School practitioners and those involved in Forest and Nature Schools across Turtle Island so that we can articulate as a community of practice, like what is a quality Forest and Nature School? What does it look like? What does it sound like? What does it feel like? We also want to improve our professional learning courses, such as the Forest and Nature School Practitioners course. And we really want to set the stage for representing the Forest and Nature School sector in discussion around policy and systems change. So miigwech for being here tonight and being a part of this movement. It's really wonderful that we're taking this path together as a community.
Thank you, Kay. So the purpose of our Fireside Chat today, the Fireside Chat series is a virtual space. Wasn't intended to be virtual, but by way of the pandemic, we've been able to connect with people virtually. So it's a virtual space for Forest and Nature School practitioners to meet, share experiences and answer questions related to a theme. During this Fireside Chat, we are going to dive into 4 principles of Forest and Nature School practice, which were developed in 2018, and how they relate to our relationship with risky play. We want to learn from you what these principles look like on the ground. How can we measure the principles? What are the measurements? How do we know a Forest and Nature School program is meeting these principles? And is anything missing? I've just seen on the survey prompt come up with the responses. So it looks like the majority of us are in the place known as Ontario, and then a mix of folks from British Columbia, Alberta, Manitoba, Quebec, and New Brunswick, some Nova Scotia, Newfoundland, PEI. So welcome everybody, thank you so much. Oh, there is someone from Saskatchewan I'm seeing in the chat, but we didn't capture you in the survey, so sorry for that. We do have some standards today for our conversation, so we can all feel safe and that we are contributing in a safe space. Our hope is to have a lively discussion about practice in Forest and Nature School. We at CNAC are not here to judge anyone's practice or be critical. I hope that we can see everyone here is passionate about Forest and Nature School, and it's likely that there are differences between us and what we value as essential. This is in fact why we are having these conversations, so we can find out what's common and shared while preserving what makes our practices unique. Let's remember to be respectful and kind, and even when disagreements arise. So to share with you some of the format for today, our introductions will take about 10 minutes. Hopefully we're not already over. I suspect we are if my track record is anything to do with it, but we want to respect your time and not run over on an evening. Conversation with our guest speakers will be about 30 minutes, and then we'll have 2 breakout room sessions, and the total of that time will be 40 minutes, and then we'll have 10 minutes to close.
Thanks, Heather. So if you have any questions or thoughts after this fireside chat that you didn't get the opportunity to bring up, or you want to talk about that some more, you're feeling really excited or passionate about something, you are welcome to share in whatever way feels best for you. Sometimes Zoom doesn't always feel like the best place to share. So you're welcome to send video, audio, or written text to CNAC. And the email was just posted in the chat. It's community@childnature.ca. And we will also have a survey that you can complete after this session, which is also going to be linked so that you can, give us your feedback anonymously if that feels best for you. And you can also do the survey in both English and French.
Thanks, Kay. I think a few people have joined us throughout the introduction, so welcome to you and thank you for joining us for this fireside chat. We're going to open the call up now to a conversation with our guest speakers, and Kay and I will introduce them now. So I'm delighted to introduce you all to Jacqueline Bennett. Jacqueline identifies as Nihayawak Plains Cree and has a strong connection with her British and French settler heritage in Newfoundland. She is an active member of the Kakuwisaho First Nation band Treaty 7, located in south central Saskatchewan. She currently resides in the unceded territory of the Micmac and Beothuk in Corner Brook, Western Newfoundland. Jacqueline is a registered early childhood educator and delivers developmentally appropriate emergent curriculum for children ages 0 to 12. Jacqueline is also a registered yoga teacher specializing in vinyasa restorative and children's yoga. To enrich her approach, Jacqueline integrates a mix of traditional yogic practices and Indigenous philosophy into every aspect of her work. Jacqueline studied psychology as an undergraduate at Grenfell Campus Memorial University in Newfoundland. She's worked in a variety of indoor early childhood learning settings, but is most effective and content working in the forest and other natural settings. Jacqueline founded Sapling Forest School in Corner Brook in 2018. This program brings young children into the forest to learn and grow through play. Sapling Forest School's mission is to provide a supportive environment to foster the well-being, health and growth of all who wish to connect with nature. So thank you so much, Jacqueline, for being with us today.
Oh, okay. I have the honor of introducing a Kway I really, really admire and look up to, Dawn Ottereyes. She's right there. I've gotten to work with her this past year and just learning so much together. So Dawn is a Cree Algonquin from northern Quebec, and she's a proud mother of 2 healthy and active boys. She is currently working as a land-based education consultant to promote the importance of bridging Cree culture, language, curriculum, and the land. Dawn is a teacher at heart and has taught students from pre-K all the way to the university level. Her goals include further developing a land-based approach that will benefit Indigenous children. Dawn takes great responsibility in ensuring that both her children and students learn by building a strong connection to the land. Dawn has been on the journey of sharing her experiences and her acquired knowledge, and she has a lot of knowledge to share. So miigwech for being here tonight, Dawn.
And also joining us for our conversations, I'm delighted to introduce Susan McGarvey. Susan was born and raised in Indianapolis, Indiana, where she spent summer days reading under the mulberry bush and exploring the mysteries of the tiny forest in her backyard with friends. While in university, Susan spent a year teaching on the Pacific island of Pohnpei. I hope I've said that right, Susan, where she found a love of jumping off waterfalls, climbing mountains, and as often as possible, exploring the wonders of the ocean. Sounds ideal. After marrying her long-distance love, she found herself in northeastern British Columbia, where the everyday pressures of a new community, marriage, kids, and work made her lose sight of the importance of connections with nature, even when she was literally living in the middle of it. That resonates, I think, with many of us. Susan was lucky enough to find herself as part of a team of like-minded individuals who helped her rediscover her love of nature. She now works as the education coordinator for NEAT, a small environmental education nonprofit where she gets to watch children discover their voice and their wild side through Camp Wildlings, NEAT's child-led high-risk camp, and watch them embrace the world around them through NEAT's many other environmental sustainability programs. Thank you so much, Susan, for being with us today.
All right, a big thank you, Walawan, to all of our guest speakers tonight. And now that we've introduced them, I think it's time we dive in, dive in from a great height, maybe, risky play. So to start things off, we're going to explore the principle of Forest and Nature School that views risky play as an integral part of children's learning and their healthy development. And that risky play is facilitated by a knowledgeable, qualified educator who can support children and youth to co-manage risk. So risky play, as most of you may be familiar with, it's really thrilling and it's exciting. But it also involves the possibility of physical injury. Risky play provides opportunity for challenges and problem solving, testing limits, exploring boundaries, and learning about, possible injury that could come from risky type of activities. So Ellen Sandsetter and Rasmus Kelp define risky play as play from great heights, play at great speeds, play with dangerous tools, rough and tumble play, disappearing or getting lost, playing with impact, and vicarious play. Oh, so much good stuff there. All my favorite kinds of play. So I'd like to start off by asking a question to all of our panelists this evening. So Dawn, Jacqueline, and Susan. Do you use the term risky play within your practice, or do you prefer other terminology when you're discussing these types of play? So would it be okay if Dawn spoke to that first?
Sure. Hi, everyone. So in my practice while working on the Mohawk territory a few years back in a forest school, um, we did use the term risky play. And I never really gave it any thought of using another term. So we just went with it. But I found that when we were introducing the concept to parents or administrators, it was something that went they felt a little uneasy with the term, like, oh, there's risk in the children, playing at school. Like, how are we going to address that if there are injuries? um, so I found that we always had to justify what that meant and really give a clear picture of what that meant and what benefits came with the children interacting and being part of risky play. But most recently, I've been meeting with an elder who guides me in my work in northern Quebec. And when I tried to ask him, what does that mean, risky play? Like, how did your parents or your families address that living off the land? And he kind of looked at me and said, oh, do you mean survival skills? So he said that risky play is just something that is learned. He even mentioned from before he was born that it's just a connection and a learned behavior, and that parents, I guess, guide and role model, how to be with dangerous tools or how to provide for their family or just taking care of roles and responsibilities. So I do use risky play, and so that's that. Thank you.
Miigwech Don. I'll open it to Jacqueline.
Hello, everybody. I would like to start by just expressing gratitude for everybody taking some time out of their day. I am so grateful to be surrounded by so many people who are passionate about this line of work. Wonderful, wonderful. I want to start by saying that I don't use the term risky play. I thought about and the reason I don't right away turn to risky play is because in my relationships with parents and as a director, as a founder of a program, I do my best to drive language positively. I frame it in a positive way. And so when we place the term risk right at the beginning of anything that we do, of course, our red flags go up. And I am of the opinion that we are developing skills. And so to expand on Dawn's insight, that I really truly believe that we can mitigate any risk. That's not to say that it doesn't exist. Of course it exists. But if we are able to develop awareness in the children, and using that positively charged language, not only is it more accessible to parents, it's more accessible to children. Children are capable, they are competent, and we need to allow for those opportunities. So I use the term adventures. I don't use the term risky play. I say that we're going on adventures. When I'm talking to insurance companies, of course, I talk about the details, but we go on lots of adventures at Sapling Forest School.
Miigwech Jacqueline. And Susan.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me here tonight. So I run a camp, and it's for ages 4 to 12. So it's kind of a little different perspective than I think a lot of you are in the preschool level. I get that preschool level, but I also get the older kids too. And we have embraced the term high risk. We actually kind of fly it like a flag that we are a child-led high risk camp and program, because I really do want parents to know what their children are walking into. I have a lot of parents who come in and say, this is perfect. You're going to do what I don't want to see my child do. So you take the risk with the camp and you teach them how to use the knives and the hatchets and the saws. You let them climb the tree and learn how to do it safely. So for our program, we feel like embracing the term high risk or risky play and kind of having it as a badge of honor that it's part of our program, and also followed up with, it's also a huge confidence builder in all ages. If you've ever seen the face of a 4-year-old when you give them a pocket knife and teach them how to use it safely, and they learn how to whittle, you know that they love that we're giving them that opportunity, and it does wonders for their self-confidence. So absolutely, we use risky play.
Thank you for sharing, Susan. And I'll turn it over to Heather.
Thanks, Kay. The survey that we had asking folks if you use risky play in your programming, 81% of folks this evening said that they do use that language. But I think after hearing the responses to those first questions, there might be some wheels turning about some alternatives maybe. That was really great kind of cross-section of what's used in programs. Thank you. I have a question for Dawn, and it's how do you support a child's choice to engage in risky play or adventurous play, and what is your role as an adult?
Thank you. I think the way that I've support in kind of guided my students in risky play was setting some clear boundaries. For example, knowing to roam and explore, that they have to be in eyesight of the teacher when they're playing in the forest, not climbing higher than 6 feet in a tree. So,
Oh, I think we might be experiencing a little bit of bandwidth.
The thing that I like to teach my students is to self-assess and just to ask them, is it safe? So even my son, like he asks his brother, are you sure, is that safe? So he's also using the terminology. So yeah, that's my answer. Thank you.
Yeah, it's so interesting to see them absorb that and use it when they're with their peers or their siblings. That's cool to see. To Jacqueline, my next question goes to you. How do you include children in assessing risk?
At our program, we use language that helps to bring children in awareness of what's happening. So if I see a child, for example, we have a log that crosses a brook, and there's no guide wire or anything that kind of crosses this brook. And with our children who are becoming oriented with the forest, we often hang out around that log. And we always get the brave ones that come in and right away they're going up. And what we do is we encourage the children to first become aware. And I use a lot of open-ended questioning in that. And I might start by saying, I see that you are crossing that log. And I immediately become aware. I see that you're crossing the log over a rushing stream. I immediately bring them into their surroundings, because often they're engulfed in their play and they're not really aware and they're not really seeing what's going on around them. And I might ask them, what are your next steps? I might jump right into that so that they can move into a planning mindset of, well, they might say, I'm just going right across. If, for example, they're in a different risky situation that needs to be adjusted immediately, for example, they are using a knife without proper hand protection, or perhaps they're swinging a stick that could become potentially harmful to the people around them. I might say, I see you are, for example, using a knife without gloves. Oh, I'm right into awareness. I might then offer suggestions to open a conversation of what the safest way we can do that. So what is the safest way we can do that? And it is conversation based. I don't have a script. I don't have any magical answer. Even the preschoolers, after some time, are able to come up with answers. They're able to become aware once they've become known of what their situation is, and making it very clear that we don't want to cause harm to ourselves or cause harm to others as the main thing. And I will circle back to Dawn's comment that knowing the boundaries beforehand, knowing the guidelines beforehand, setting it out on the first day of what is appropriate and what we consider to be safe and what is beyond our developmental level, because those boundaries change depending on the age of the child. Absolutely. So a long-winded answer. Thank you so much. But that's how we do things in Newfoundland.
Well, that was a great answer. I saw lots of nodding heads as you were talking, Jacqueline. So lots of agreement there. I love that about creating the awareness and also creating the container from the outset, so the children are aware of those boundaries. That's great. Thanks, Kate. Over to you for the next question.
All right, I have a question for Susan. How do you communicate the value of risky play with parents and caregivers?
So that has changed a lot with our program. We're going into our 4th year of our program. And the first year, it was hard to get that message across. People heard child-led, high risk, and they either stopped or they said, okay, this sounds kind of cool. Since our first year, it's really word of mouth. So one way I do it, even in that first year, was to talk about it. So I made sure, I'm sure with all of your programs, in your advertising, you kind of list some of the activities that you'll be engaging in. And that was one of the things. But I went a step further and made sure that I was blogging about it, that we were covering it on Facebook, that learning how to safely use tools is confidence building, and it helps with morale and all of the benefits of risky play, letting kids find their own boundaries, helping children to find their voice. We just made sure we got that message out over and over. And even in our registration process, we make sure that when they're signing a waiver, they're not just signing the waiver that says, I understand that my child is going to be engaging in risky play, and that injury is possible. They're also learning that why we're doing that is included in our waiver. So this is the behavior that's going to be happening. These are the activities that they could possibly engage in, and these are the reasons that we engage in.
Thanks, Susan Miigwech, for your answer. As someone who operates a forest and nature school program, I was like nodding my head to a lot of what you're saying, just having that transparency, right? And being really specific with what does that risk actually mean. So thank you for bringing those points up, Susan. And pass it to Heather for our next question.
Thanks, Kate. This one is for all 3 of you, and it's slightly longer, so bear with me. We know it's always important to weave in questions about access and equity, as well as reciprocity with First Nations, Métis and Inuit, and the role of forest and nature schools have in those vitally important endeavours. To all 3 of you, how should a quality forest and nature school program in Canada address the privilege of risky play? And what I mean by this is that risk is both physically and perceptually different for every person. We've just started working.
Heather, sorry, can I just interrupt you there one second? I think this is the question that we reworked, if I'm not mistaken. So why don't I just find that and
I've got it. Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
Sorry. Yeah. So we're going. Oh no, bear with me 1 minute. So our perceptions and experiences of risk are subjective, influenced by our past experiences, our cultures, worldviews, and various aspects of our identities, including race and class. For example, disability advocate Amanda St. Dennis talks about how touching snow can be risky for a person with sensitivities to tactile feelings. How does a high-quality forest nature school program support risky play for all children and not just those whose experience is similar to our own? So could I start with you, Susan?
I love this question because it's something that we face all the time in our program, and I'm sure all of you guys do too. What is risk to each person, and how do you introduce it? And the way that we have found the best way to tackle this is just to offer opportunities for risky play. Never force a child to engage in an activity that they don't feel comfortable. The first thing that I tell all of our instructors is, if a child says, I'm not comfortable with this, or I don't want to do this, or refuses to participate, it's not our job to force them to. They can sit and watch and observe, and maybe eventually they'll decide, hey, I do want to try it. But I think the most important part is offer the opportunity to engage in the risk, but never force.
So inviting choice. Thank you, Susan. And to Jacqueline, could we go to you next?
Absolutely. So supporting all children in what I call adventures. The foundation of all of our programming is a relationship between the practitioner or whoever is working with us at that particular camp or program. The relationship between having a colleague of mine calls us responsible tall people, who are our point of contact for our children. And so if that person feels like they're supported, feels like they are connected with the group, then we can start to have conversations about risk. If I don't have a relationship with the child, they are not receiving the messages that I am giving, no matter how good the message is. I need to start with that foundational relationship. And through that relationship, I'm able to see where the child is in their developmental abilities. Do they have the hand strength to be whittling? Do they have the balance to be crossing that log? Are they able to understand that when we're climbing trees, we need 3 points of contact? And if they're not quite at those milestones, well, where are they? What can they do? Perhaps a child is not ready to climb trees, but they're ready to cross the log. So supporting all children in wherever the moment is. And I will continue that by saying it can change day to day. So a child on Monday is confident and excited and balanced and ready to take on the world. And that same child on program day 3 they're tired. They've had 3 days in the forest. They're going home and they're not able to get the adequate rest that they need in between sessions. So building that relationship foundationally with the child first, I'm able to closely monitor where they're feeling on a particular day and support them in their adventures.
Oh, that's such a beautiful reminder, Jacqueline, that we start from relationship. And when you said that, I saw some really deep nods around the fireside. So thank you so much for that. Dawn, if we could invite you into the question.
Yes, thank you. So Jacqueline, just her mentioning the importance of building a relationship, I really feel strongly about it. And on a personal level, when I first moved into the Mohawk community of Ganawage, where I was going to teach a kindergarten class, I knew very little of the language, the culture, the history. So I worked very hard in getting the knowledge from the community members learning the history. And the school atmosphere was very inviting and made sure that the people were aware of who we were teaching, right? The Mohawk culture was everywhere. And so they would offer trainings from the cycles of ceremonies on a monthly basis. A clan mother would come in and just share stories so that we can also share those stories within the classroom and out on the land and incorporate that in our everyday. And there was also book clubs from, stories about the creation story. So those were all options and there for the staff to become more knowledgeable. And just going on all accessibility to all children. I remember one child that I used to work with was nonverbal. So this child wanted to be part of our, risky play and being outside with us. But first I felt like I needed to go and learn how to teach him sign language. So I took the training and, just to be able to foster his needs and what he would be able to communicate and making it more safe for him to be part of it. And it also makes me think of another student I had. I guess she came across as being defiant at times, very sweet. But when it was time to go outside, the mittens didn't feel right. The boots, the hat, the scarf, because she was very sensitive. So when I started working with an occupational therapist, she gave me the little girl's perspective of what it feels like to be, forced or asked or to get dressed. And also the occupational therapist also identified students that don't feel like when their hands are getting cold. So you have to monitor that and ask them, and support them in that way. So that's how I, on a personal level, was able to make sure that all students in our program had access to the outdoor play.
Wow, continual learning there, Dawn. Thank you so much for sharing those individual perspectives. That's really great. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to hand it over to you for our first breakout room.
All right, breakout rooms. I hope we don't lose. I saw that on, I don't know if anyone else has seen that on Instagram or TikTok, that little video where they announce a breakout room and then half the people leave. So hopefully everyone stays. Don't get breakout room anxiety. It's a little risky, but we can manage it together. So we're going to divide everyone up into facilitated breakout rooms for discussion. So there is going to be a CNAC designated person in each room that is facilitating the discussion to help offer some prompts if need be, but we really just want the conversations to come from the participants. The facilitator is also going to document what's being shared in the breakout room so that, we keep notes on it and we hear people's perspectives, and we will share back just a short brief, from just a few different groups. Not every group will get to share after the breakout room is done. But like we said at the beginning, there is other opportunities for you to follow up if you feel like you have more you'd like to say. So the breakout room will be approximately 15 minutes, and a warning will go out before the breakout room ends so that you know it's coming. And on that note, I will turn it over to Charlene so that we can get into our breakout rooms and start discussing these quality indicators around risky play for forest and nature schools on Turtle Island. It may have felt risky, but that breakout room was awesome. Thank you for everyone for participating. I just want to allow the opportunity for really short, brief points that came up in the breakout room based on those discussion prompts. So Julie, would you like to share some points that came up in your group.
Yes, thank you, Kay. So I'm going to share in French because our group discussion was in French, and I have Stephanie who will be doing translation in the chat so that if you don't understand French, you're able to follow as well. And I also want to say thank you for giving me this opportunity to be able to discuss in French. Alors, ce dont on a discuté dans notre salle, c'est qu'on avait des protocoles similaires qui étaient en place. Alors, on était des gens de l'école publique et puis des gens de garderie. Un des protocoles qui était en place, c'est d'avoir les adultes qui travaillent, qui signent une entente à chaque 1 ou 2 mois, donc qui renouvellent leur engagement à respecter les protocoles. Donc, ça fait en sorte que ça rassure un peu les gens. Tout le monde est au courant des protocoles et puis le tout est signé régulièrement. Ensuite, on a parlé que c'est important d'être transparent avec nos évaluations de risque, les documentations qu'on a en place, les protocoles qu'on a. Puis les différentes façons de faire ça, c'est de communiquer régulièrement avec les parents, en documentant, en faisant des communiqués, en faisant des rencontres, puis en rendant cette information-là disponible à tous. Aussi en faisant de la communication journalière, donc quand on vient chercher les enfants à la fin de la journée, de partager un peu comment s'est déroulée la journée. Mais en gros, l'important, je pense qu'on a discuté, c'était d'être transparent, puis de rendre tous ces protocoles-là, toute la documentation disponible. Et puis, tant aux parents, aux adultes, aux travailleurs, à tous ceux qui le veulent. C'est ça qui fait en sorte que notre programme est un peu plus crédible et de qualité. Donc, en gros, c'était ça. Merci. Thank you.
Merci, Julie. Petra, would you like to share a few points from your group, please?
Sure. You know what? We dove into, I was crowdsourcing shamelessly around some really concrete sort of risky or safety guidelines that often come up from the community. So questions around like, do you have cutoff temperatures that you don't go outside anymore? Do you have cutoff wind speeds? What's the ratio that you use for various age groups? Really trying to get a sense of like, are there common threads around this in Canada? So we dove into that, but I won't get into the numbers now.
Okay, thanks. Thanks for your update from your group. Lots of good stuff to chat about. My group was doing the same, so it's great we've gathered some information. And I think Heather is going to introduce our second breakout room. We're getting riskier.
Yeah, we've created that container we're all in now. Thanks, Kay. Thanks, everyone. That was such a lively, friendly discussion in my breakout group, and it looked like it was a similar experience across other breakout rooms. So let's do it again. The second breakout room will be divided up again into facilitated breakout rooms to discuss how should a quality forest and nature school practitioner in Canada demonstrate their competency in supporting risky play. So we're thinking about things like first aid training, their interaction with children. We've heard lots, I think, in the discussion about the guests who shared their personal experiences as practitioners in their programs. So yeah, looking for a great discussion again. My group gave me a lot to think about, and that was I learned a lot from my group. Thank you to everyone that was in my group, and yeah, I hope that was good for everybody. So I'm going to call on a couple of folks, a couple of our facilitators who were part of the breakout room conversations. And first, if Cameron, if you're around, hi.
Yeah. Hi there. Hi.
Summary, that would be great.
So we had a great discussion. So I think we can summarize this relatively simply, I think. One of the things is there didn't tend to be one specific way to do things. I mean, there was a lot of evidence is that if you're walking the talk, that was sort of a term I was using, but is if you're demonstrating that in practice. And that can be done through just doing the work, watching people, seeing what they do, rather than just asking kids to wear sunscreen, bring rain gear, they come prepared. They're putting it on themselves. They're putting on the rain. They're modeling the kind of behavior that you want. That was a big one. There was the basics, like first aid was kind of I must say a no-brainer. I think everybody, that seemed to be fairly, that made sense. But what's interesting is that then we got into this idea about not just having it all embodied within an individual. The two things that we thought as individuals is if you get to know your kids, get to know those kids well, you can adapt to the needs. And the second one is build trust between your teammates. If you've got those two things, one of the things that our group seems to think about, you could probably navigate most situations if you've got that. And then lastly, I would also just say that it wasn't really an issue in terms of, it's mostly modeling, less around whether you've got the paper or the life experience. Either one of those things could work.
Definitely. Thanks, Cameron. It's great to see folks participating in the chat. If something kind of occurred to you or you didn't get a chance to make a point in your breakout room, please do use the chat function. There's a survey coming after this as well, which will give you an opportunity to provide more thoughts. Yeah, if I could then, where is my fellow colleague Petra? Hi. Do you mind giving us a summary? I know we've called on you already. I've recorded twice today. Did we change that?
Oh no,
yeah, Stephanie. Sorry.
Yeah, I can share. I wrote an actual novel, so I'm just trying to decipher my notes here, and I'm definitely not as skilled as Cameron in summarizing a conversation. We sort of started with like if practitioners should have specific types of training, and everyone felt that the answer was yes, but that there doesn't seem to be a training that encompasses everything that's needed to work in a setting like this. And folks talked about like even going to like local conservation groups to learn from them, go to local experts and sort of like get bits and pieces of knowledge. And that there really is so much to know, having, respect for the land, connection to the land. How do we walk with children to build that relationship? You need to have the understanding of how children think and learn. And really there's like no training that is all in one or one size fits all. One interesting thing was that someone mentioned the Forest and Nature School Practitioners course offers a bit of this, but it would be really great to enhance the profile of this so that folks actually understood, oh yeah, you took the practitioner's course, but what does that even mean? Like, it's not necessarily accredited, people don't necessarily recognize it. And then in terms of common themes it was also like trust and relationship, co-assessing risk with the children, involving them in the decision making, really getting the buy-in from the groups by involving them, and that includes in school boards as well. And also lastly, just the last little thing, in terms of keeping in mind that duty of care, the role that you're playing, right? Your role as an educator is going to be different from your role as a parent. You're going to manage risk differently with those two groups. So yeah, it was a good chat.
Sounds like it. Thanks so much, Steph. And thank you everyone for participating so fully at this time on a Thursday night, wherever you are. It's we really appreciate you bringing your thoughts and ideas to this discussion. We're so grateful. We're going to start wrapping up. I know we're at 8:30 now, so just bear with us as we wrap up. We won't keep you too much longer. And Kay, over to you.
Well, just in Jacqueline's words from this evening, what an adventure we went on. So thanks for that term, Jacqueline. I like that. I just want to thank everyone for your input. Loved the breakout rooms, love to hear people's practices and stories as we become this kind of community all across Turtle Island. I just want to kind of direct everyone's eyes over to the chat. There is the survey that you can do in English and French. Please offer more of your feedback. We want to hear about your practice, about your experience as we create these qualities and these indicators of quality. So miigwech, walawan, merci. Thank you for this evening.
Thanks, Kate. Just two quick things before you jump off. That this recording, as well as a summary of the conversations, will be on our website, and the link will be in our chat. Thank you so much, and that will be posted in the next week or two. Our next Fireside Chat will be on June 30th at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, so mark your calendars now. The theme will be relationship with power and the role of the educator and the view of the child. And as always, you are all so welcome to get in touch with us and connect with us through a dedicated email, community@childnature.ca, and that's just been dropped in the chat as well, I think. So thank you so much on behalf of the entire CNAC team. We really, really appreciate your time and input today, and hope to see you on June 30th. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great evening.